Hello and welcome to Gypsy Kiss. It's Wednesday, Fennsday, and I'm Shelley, Carney.
And I'm Toby, Younis. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to share some of our experiences on the Rio de los Piños with you today. Boy, that intro sounded really loud to me.
It'll wake you up, huh?
Yeah, get everybody off and running. Let me make one quick change here. And did you start your watch party?
No, because I thought we should talk to the people, and if you're playing with something, then I should probably do it. What do you think?
All right, I'll do it. I'll take care of it. Go ahead and do it.
Do what?
Housekeeping, you want towel?
Because you need some towels, and while Shelley's starting up her watch party on her Facebook page, we'll talk about towels. So first, we would appreciate it if before you leave today's live stream, you take a moment to like our video, because YouTube really, really, really loves it when you like our videos. In addition to that, we'd appreciate it greatly if you'd share our video with your family, your friends, your neighborhood associates, your business associates, and the entirety of your social networks, so that we can
grow the channel.
And finally, we would appreciate it if if you're not already a subscriber, click the subscribe button, and when you see that notifications bell, click on the notifications bell, and that way, whenever we start a live stream or schedule a live stream, you will be immediately informed and
in the know.
In the know. There's nothing better than being in the know. You want to tell them about Super Chat?
There is a way that you can donate to a Gypsy's Kiss and support the channel that supports your community. And that is
that's very good.
To click on the $ at the bottom of the chat, stylized grayed out $, and that will do a super chat, which means your comment or question will be highlighted in the chat. Or you can just send it to PayPal, and that comes across the top, right?
PayPal.me, PayPal.me/Gypsy's Kiss.
Yeah. So, and that's just a lovely way to support a Gypsy's Kiss and thank us for supporting you as well. So it's all very mutual. And beyond that, if you would like to write to us in the chat room so we're less likely to miss it, make sure you look at Joel Wicky's comment, and you can see that he's done the @A_Gypsy's Kiss, and that highlighted it in orange for us so that we don't miss it. If we still miss it, it's possible that it didn't highlight for some reason. Dave Headbloom is in the room with a super chat, showing us all how it's done. Thank you, Dave. And he says, hello, 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 and hello back to you, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat. The last thing that I wanted to remind you of is this is the last week that the Fenn Treasure Searcher Survey is going to be online and available. It finishes, we close it on Sunday at midnight, Sunday, June 30th. And so if you haven't already participated in the survey, I think we have around the last count 318 survey respondents. If you haven't participated in the survey, please do so when you get the opportunity. It doesn't require that you provide any personal or contact information unless you want me to send you a copy of the survey upon its completion. Other than that, it doesn't require any other information on your behalf that's provided to us. And then and we'll read the results. We'll summarize the results of the survey on Wednesday, July 3rd on our 1 p.m. show. And then, of course, if you were one of the ones that asked to have it emailed to you, we will email you links to the final survey, to the finished survey, as well as a link to the massive spreadsheet that is produced as a result of the survey. And you're welcome to do with it. It is copyrighted material, so you can't publish it under your own name on other media, but you're welcome to use it for your own purposes and see what you learn from it, okay? Let me just reset that for me. Okay, so what we wanted to do today is talk a little bit about our experiences up in northern New Mexico and southern Colorado looking for treasure along the Rio de los Piños. Mm-hmm. And I actually kind of fell in love with the area, and I don't know, I never asked you how you felt about the Rio de los Piños from an other than searcher perspective.
I thought it had a lot of interesting features. And yeah, it was nice to visit.
Yeah.
I'd go back again.
Yeah, it is a nice place to visit.
Bit of a drive, but not too bad.
It is a bit of a drive. So I just want to say hi to Brad Kinzer because he's on our Facebook page. And Brad, welcome. Thank you for joining us on our Facebook page. For those of you that are on your Facebook page, I have a version of Restream.io that enables me to see your chat as well so I can respond to it. And you're actually a little bit more visible in the YouTubers because when I see it here, it actually shows that you're coming from Facebook. And I know we don't have as many viewers from Facebook as we do on YouTube. So I'm going to do a screenshot here. That's our statistics. I want to see our stats. And I'm just going to take you over to gypsykiss.com, which is our blog where all our photo albums are. Unfortunately, because I made some changes to our relationship with WordPress, we decided not to pay for it anymore. I was using a tool that required payment, and so I need to update. If you go to our photos, I don't want to do that. There's no photos there, but if you go to gypsykiss.com and use the search bar and just search photo albums, all the photo albums for the last 6 years will come up. And that includes our searches on the Rio Chama, Cimarron, Rio Grande before Fenn said it was out of bounds. A couple of other places. Where else did we go besides Cimarron? Browns Canyon in Colorado, Lander, Wyoming, Sinks Canyon in Wyoming, and then a bunch from the Rio de los Piños where we focused the entirety of last summer, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna take you there, and basically we made 5 trips, and I'm gonna show you photographs from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of them was just about Osher Station, which is the train station at the midway point between Chama and Antonito for the Cumbres and Toltec Railroad. But it's kind of an interesting place. If you've never been there, it's a really kind of a fun visit. So the first trip that we made was actually what I would call the Eastern Approach. And we drove up 285 until we intersected State Road, I think it's 284, that takes you in from the east towards the Rio de los Piños. Now, this is basically farming, ranching community, and a lot of the property is private. So make sure if you go into this area, you take a BLM map for that quadrant with you so that you know when you're on private property, because you don't want to be messing around with private property. A lot of it is fenced, but the Rio does travel through there, and it's also the water from the Rio de los Piños is used for irrigation for some of these farming locations. So our only warning there is that you be very cautious about where you're searching up there. So we stopped here on the Rio de los Piños. And again, this is downstream from the Toltec Gorge. This is on the, like I said, the eastern side of the Toltec Gorge. And that's when we first realized. So this was a trip that we made in June. First trip? In June? Or second? May. So this was the trip that we made in May, and as you can see, the water. Oh no, this was an August trip.
2018.
Yeah, that's correct. It's 2018. Why how did this end up here? So this was not our.
No, that's when we went for the long vacation.
Yeah.
Are they backwards?
Yeah, they're backwards. Okay, so sorry, they're backwards. This was our first trip, and at the time I was driving an SUV, and I had been warned by the Forest Service that the roads in April were still going to be either snow covered or muddy. And what was interesting about this year is there wasn't a lot of snow in 2018, nowhere near the amount of snow that we see in 2019. So I rented a 4-wheel drive pickup truck to take us up there. And it was just the 3 of us, Shelley, Kevin, and I. This is some of that imagery along the eastern approach to the Rio de los Piños. I can't remember the names of these little towns, but this church was called the Iglesia San Miguel, St. Michael. And Michael is my middle name, and I attended St. Michael's High School, so I thought I'd get a picture of it. But it's still in use. There's a cemetery nearby, but there was, and that's the cemetery. But there was nothing that felt Fenny to us in that area. I mean, it was an interesting area, but it wasn't Fenny. I mean, as you can see, it's basically high desert, kind of scrub brush, a lot of mesquite. There were interesting names. I think we concluded that, I don't know if you guys remember the story of the pneumonia epidemic in the 1900s. Learned that from you. The 1900s. But you could tell that the pneumonia epidemic, caught up to this area because a number of the gravestones were children that were 3, 4, and 5, all during that period, that late the 1900s dates. This was one of the children's. So we took it through there. This is a water. What was interesting about this belonged to the train company at one point, and it's a pumping station that would pump water from the river all the way up the side of the mountain to the water tower at Osher Station. It is no longer in use. They get their water from, I guess, the Rio de los Piños now, but this was in place, and it was erect.
Erected.
Erected. In 1888, you notice there's a missing T. There.
Well, they made it the T a D because
Right.
they speak with that Burkina accent.
Burkina accent, erected. He said erected.
Yeah.
And that was the engine that was pumping the water. So it was a very nice stone building. That was a storage container. And it went literally straight up into that hill, up the hill, into that cave. And then I imagine they dug down through that cave to get the pipe to the water tower. So this was early in the season. So this was in April. And as you can see, in comparison to later, some later slides that we're going to show you, the river was running pretty high and fast at this point. And we were kind of worried because we were planning to cross the river. We knew that our search required a river crossing, and Kevin had been looking at the gauging station at Los Piños, the town of Los Piños. And it's a USGS gauging station. And he kept telling me it's getting higher and higher and higher. This April snow melt was coming. And you'll see kind of how we ended up. So that's just a panoramic shot of the area. And again, this is all below, this is east of the Toltec Gorge. We hadn't got into Colorado yet. This is still New Mexico. You can see the special trout water signs from the Game and Fish Department. There's Miss Shelley practicing some woo-woo with her tarot cards there. And it is a beautiful area, lots of places to camp. It is relatively unimproved. There is the occasional stop location for latrines, but mostly unimproved. And as you can see, it's starting to look a little bit more foresty, a little bit more fenny rather than the high desert. This was Kevin. He was going up the side of the hill to check. I don't know what he was going to check.
The view.
Oh, the view. Yeah. He just wanted a shot of the view, and I think he got it. That was his view of us down below. So we did get into Alamosa one night for dinner. I hadn't been to Alamosa in a long time. And then the unfortunate thing is the place that we had dinner, we went back later in the summer. True Grits, right.
Yeah.
And we went back later in the summer, and it had closed, so we didn't get to enjoy it. It's a nice little steakhouse. That's us at True Grits. One of the other patrons took a picture for us. So this is our big pickup truck, and it was taller than me, one of those things. There's no steps, and I had to put my old 69-year-old leg up at the time, and every time I reached up, I'd ask for Jesus' help to get me up. Help me, Jesus. So this is the view so now we're in Colorado. This is the view from Forest Road 103 in the Rio Grande National Forest in Colorado, right? Mm-hmm. And this is actually an overlook of the Toltec Gorge. You can look at the gorge and you can hear the train when it does pass by. Mm-hmm. Now, again, this was April, so the trees hadn't quite filled out, and you can still see there's some snow up on the sides of the hill here. But as we continued down this road, let me get to that point. I'm going to walk you through these so you're not bored slides. We got to this point, and you can't see it in this image, but this is an angle downwards at about 30 degrees. And at each time you went over one of those hills, there was ice and then there was mud. You can see Kevin scouting it down below. And we decided with the vehicle that we had, it wouldn't be any trouble going down, but we were concerned that it might be trouble going up. And we weren't equipped for it. I didn't bring any of the equipment that one would bring if you were going to experience this kind of four-wheel drive weather. Anyway, the next day, when we got back, I went and I traded my SUV in on this little Frontier. So I don't know whether you can see this, but Kevin photoshopped this. I can't do it. And it actually, he changed erected into brown 1888. And so he was teasing me. Okay, so that was that trip. That was the first one we made back. And we spent more time on the eastern approach than being on the west side of the Toltec Gorge. So we went back again. And in this case, we visited Osher Station. So this was June. So that was late April. We waited again till June to take a second trip, and we made the transition over that road that you saw and made it all the way to Osher Station, and it was busy. Osher Station is where the Cumbres and Toltec Railroad stops, and it's got the water tower, which some people believe is where warm waters halt, and it's developed. The whole train thing is run by a society of interested members, and they do it as a hobby or avocation, from funding it to taking pictures to learning to be locomotive engineers, et cetera, et cetera. They actually have schools where they train these various locomotive engineers, and they have different numbers. And what was interesting about this day is there was a man standing behind me taking photographs of this train, and he was wearing a baseball cap. I don't think I got a picture of him. Anyway, he was wearing a baseball cap, and the baseball cap had the number 315 written across it. And I turned around and asked him if I was in his way of the shot, and he said, "No, you're fine." And I noticed the cap, and I said, "What is the 315 for?" And he pointed to the train, and he said, "That's my train. How'd you like to own your own train?" And he looked like he could afford to buy his own train.
As much as they charge to teach you to be engineer, yeah,
it was a pretty good penny.
I guess that's where they make the money.
So this building right here is where the cafeteria is, and they serve lunch from 11:30 on. It cost us $13.
I don't know, something like that. 11 or 13.
$13, and they take cash only. So don't expect to,
unless you're on the train trip, and then
right, and then you've already paid for it, right?
But it's a big buffet, lots and lots of choices. So
I took the opportunity to shoot some additional video. You've seen there's a video of Shelley that we use in our outros. That you see. This is the inside of the cafeteria, and just an idea of what it's like there. The food is pretty good. There's two lines, one with meatloaf and the other with turkey, and then the accoutrement, the what are they called?
Sides.
Sides are like the sides for, the meatloaf are associated with meatloaf, and the sides for turkey are associated with turkey. So it's a lot of fun. So these are just an explanation. I always document signs because I don't get a chance to read them. We're always in a rush. So I simply document the signs so that if I need to see them, if I need to remember what they said, I take a picture of them. So this is right after both trains have left. And what happens is there's a train coming from Antonito and there's a train coming from Chama, and they meet up on two different tracks. There's two different tracks at the Osher Station, and they both stop there at the same time. So they feed lunch to everybody at the same time. And then once lunch is complete, everybody gets back on their respective trains and finishes their trips. One to Antonito and one to Chama. So this is just it heading out again. Okay, so then we went back later in June, and by this time everything had cleared up. So that was early June. So everything had cleared up. We went back. That's on the way. That's on Route 285 going north. As we come into Colorado, again, that's Forest Road 103 in the Rio Grande National Forest in Colorado. you make the transition. You actually, on that road, it's funny because it takes a little 1 mile long dip into New Mexico and then back out again. So we're just taking pictures. That's the same spot that you saw in the last image that that had all the ice and snow on it that we couldn't get down. So you can see it's nice and clear now, very easy to get down. That's the view across the gorge to the other side into New Mexico. And then we're at the Rio de los Piños. So we had gone past Osher Station. We're down, and this is an overlook at the Rio de los Piños. And you can just see a corner of the river crossing right here to get you to that road. And if you look at the Google Earth map, you can actually see that road. So we thought to ourselves, we hadn't done this river crossing. We weren't sure there. And then, so we just walked the area. This is still in Colorado, but there's a lot of fish in there. So this is beautiful fishing area when the water is this high. So I'm going to show you pictures towards the end of the summer where the water level had fallen and it was nowhere near this. But see those little pools right in there? There's brown trout in there, right there. Right there. You can catch some brown trout right there. So we looked it over, and there was some people on the other side, and they had these Polaris vehicles, and they saw us and felt sorry for us, I guess. So they came across the river. They were playing in the river. It was a family, an extended family, and the guy turned out to be the head of the Church of Latter-day Saints up in that area. He actually lives and works. He has a business in Albuquerque, actually about 5 minutes away from you, right? Lane.
From you now, too.
Yeah, true. That's true. And so we were standing there trying to decide. We did some drone shots of the river and things like that, took some other images. And then, I guess I didn't get the picture. They actually came across the river for us. They came and got us and took us to what is our launch point. And this is the view from on the Colorado side, and this is what the river looks like what we call our launch point. From this, you can park there. It is completely unimproved. It's very remote in a sense that I think we've seen one other vehicle up there the whole time, the 5 times that we were up there. And that's what it looks canyon down. That's the canyon down. And there's a trail here, but the trail peters out right about this area here, and then it just turns into cattle trails. So you follow that down. We're back to the river crossing. Let me see. I could have sworn I got pictures of them. So that's our view canyon down, but this is still in Colorado. You have to walk about 300 yards before you get to the island where the border, where the Colorado border and New Mexico border are. So, like I said, we took the time to get some pretty drone shots and some Shelley shots, and this is what the river crossing looks like from the drone. And as you can see, the water was a little bit higher. I'm at about 400 feet. So this is about 100 feet there, and then this is at about 400 feet. If you look at this thing on Google Earth, it looks completely different, and that's why we warn you. So I think we're departing. I just took a picture of this because I thought it was damned interesting.
Well, that's the place where we stayed in August.
And we stopped there and asked for some information, about room rates and cabin rates when we were staying in August. But I couldn't remember when I had last seen a public phone, so I took a picture of it in case my children ever want to do it. So that's my dirty little pickup truck. Had a great time with it. And that. So things are starting to get interesting for us. So this is what I was missing before. So this was that same time we were up there, and there were these 3 Polaris vehicles on the other side. And we kind of waved at them, and they waved back at us. And then all of a sudden, one of them crosses and takes off. And then another crosses, and I think they're just heading for home. And what happened was this woman crossed, and she came over to where we were, and she said, "You guys want to go for a ride?" And we said, "Sure." So she packed us in the Polaris. We got in, and we followed her back through the river. And this was the first time we had crossed the river, so it was actually good for us because we hadn't made the river crossing before. And the Polaris made it look easy. So I shot some video while we were going across, and that's just going across the river. And then they asked us if we wanted to do anything, And I told him, and that's where we said we want to go. There's a place around the turn over here that I'd like to get to. So Lane took us. That's Lane right there. He's the head of the Church of the Latter-day Saints in that area, although he lives and works in he's in Albuquerque. So he packed us all in the Polaris, and we headed up the road. How did he get in here?
It probably came out of the pictures.
What the heck? So they took us up to the road. We've got a fly in our studio. And this was, again, the other side of the river. And that was the only vehicle that we've ever seen at our landing spot. And as you can see, if this fly lands on my camera, I'm going to get really mad. Oh, he laid it to the bill. So, and this was the only other vehicle we've ever seen. It had New Mexico plates, so we thought it'd be a fisherman. And these guys followed us up there to that. Eventually, the road, you have to turn off the dirt road, and it's totally unimproved. But then you turn onto a 2-lane track, basically. And he kept asking me, he said, do you know where you're going? And I said, yes, I know exactly where I'm going. I've traced this on Google Maps so I could give him directions. Well, at some point, we were looking down the canyon, and they asked, what are you guys doing here? And I used it as an opportunity to recite the poem verbatim in a very Shakespearean and dramatic way. So I do that a lot. Lane was relaxed. I just got this shot because I wanted that picture of that license plate to see if I could track that guy down, see if he was a searcher. So again, that's a picture of our canyon down. And we didn't do that this time because we were here on this side of the river at the leisure of Lane and his church members. So we went back to the other side, and that's what it looks like going back across. I'm shooting, and then we were back across. Okay, so yeah. So then now, this was the first one in June that we were going to go back and we were going to make a trek of it and get to all the places that we wanted to see. And what I'm going to do here is I want to show you the actual river crossing. So this is a video I made. Kevin was actually driving the truck, and we're coming back from the other side because it was a better drone shot. So I was operating the drone. Kevin was driving the truck, and we had a GoPro on the nose of the truck. And this is a very short. I think it's a short video. Yeah. So this is what it looks like crossing the river in the truck in June. The water was, I'd say, moderately high at this point. It wasn't a difficult crossing. It certainly, it was easy for the Frontier, and the Frontiers are 4-wheel drive, so it was pretty easy with them. So I don't know who maintains it. You have to keep an eye out for the big rocks there and one over on the other side. But it's clear. You can see where you're going. It's relatively easy, and we did put it in 4-wheel drive and low, but honestly, we didn't need it. It's actually kind of the sides on other side of the river are very steep and rocky. So that's when you finally need that 4-wheel drive vehicle to help get up the various sides because they are steep and rocky. So let me go back, and this is where we felt like we're gonna do this. So we drove up there. The drive from, what's the name of that town? Starts with an M. Where we stayed. Do you remember? So the drive to our location is about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. And that's on the Forest Road 103, and then it crosses over the Rio, and then we get on that 2-lane, that even narrower road, and then we get on what is the 2-lane track, and this is our launch point. So basically, we can stand at the edge of that launch point and look canyon down. So we thought we'd stop there, have a little snack, and start getting ready. I brought bear spray, but in New Mexico, I bought bear spray because I bought it when we were in Lander.
Yes, Mogote.
Mogote, that's right. That's where we stayed. So from Mogote to our launch point, including the river crossing, is 45 minutes to an hour. So that's canyon down again, and we're doing some woo-woo. We always got to do some woo-woo when we go with it. This is the closest that you'll come to a human trail. This ends on the other side of that little ridge right there. But you can tell it's a fisherman's trail. So it's steep and rocky. That fence represents, not this part here, but there's another fence that goes up in this direction. That represents the New Mexico border. So this side of the fence is New Mexico, and this side of the fence is Colorado. So, and that's about, I'm going to say 200 yards down the river from where we're parking. And then it gets brushy, and there's a lot of brush, and it's very moist, and that's where you see all the cattle trails. There are no human trails at this point. They're all cattle trails. So this is just kind of a sense. I hadn't seen a columbine. Columbine is Colorado's state flower, and I actually hadn't seen a columbine since I had taken pictures of them back in the early 80s. So this is the dynamic duo of Miss Shelley and Toby. And we're continuing down. This area right here is the start, the beginning of the Toltec Gorge. It gets real rocky there, and that's where we're headed. And that's what it looks like. So this was the spot that we refer to it as, it was Fenny, and we refer to it as Fenn's Special Place. We thought this is Fenn's Special Place. By this time, you can see the stream was way, way down. And again, 2018 wasn't a big snow year in the west, especially in Colorado and New Mexico. So the river level had come down quite a bit. You can see that the river level is much higher here. There's a couple of caves in the side of the rock over here. And what you realize is once you're into that Toltec Gorge area, you can search that area for days. It's easy to cross. There's a big rock, right? You can't see it in this shot right here. And you can basically step across the river at this point.
Well, some people can.
Some people can.
Like, what was his name?
Chris D'Angelo. Chris D'Angelo, I've got that set. So this is the inveterate treasure hunter with his pack and his walking stick. More flowers, yellow flowers. We're always looking for Fenn's purple and yellow flowers because he's mentioned them. This is the beautiful and vivacious Miss Shelley Carney. Oh, I like this shot. And that's looking upstream from that location back towards where we had parked the car. This is us heading back. For this trip, we didn't spend a lot of time looking for locations. It wasn't until the next trip that we started going across and looking for some locations. So, and that was, let me see. I want to make sure. Okay, so this was the trip that the Huffington Post, that's him right there. So Chris D'Angelo was the writer for Huffington Post. You probably saw his article. And he asked to go with us, and we warned him that, it's a 3.5 hour drive to our location. And then it's another mile and a half, not a mile and a half, about a mile hike. And we wouldn't get back. So he was with us from 7 o'clock in the morning to about 9 o'clock at night. Going with us all the way. So we took him with us, and he took some shots of the trip. And there's Shelley wearing one of our shirts. That's the Gypsy Kiss shirt.
The animals in our location, well, we didn't get any pictures of them. There were marmots and there were squirrels.
Small
and
game.
You could hear the elk.
The elk. You can hear the elk.
I like that whistling sound they make.
But mostly small game and lots of snakes. But
yeah, a lot of snakes. Yeah, but they were like,
they weren't dangerous. They weren't poisonous.
If you kept talking while you were walking, they tried to stay out of your way.
Stay out of your way, right? But we didn't see any elk, but we heard a lot of them, especially during August. In our last trip in August, we bumped into a number of hunters from Texas, Colorado, and New Mexico, who are all the hunting.
And of course, we saw cows. Don't forget the cows.
Domesticated cows, because I guess the Forest Service leaves that land. I did not leave that carving in this piece of wood. That was another Toby. So we invited Chris to join us for lunch at the train station, and just kind of got him. So I got a picture of this. Shelley's maiden name is Dalton. So I wanted to get a picture of that. Her family is associated with the famous Dalton gang. So that's.
I'm just looking at these pictures. I'm like, oh my God! I'm so glad I lost weight since then.
So again, we're back at Fenn's special place, and we're just checking out the various nooks and crannies. At this point, Chris felt like, oh, well, maybe it could be here. So he literally just put his camera and equipment down, jumped across, maybe just his equipment, kept his camera, jumped across, and he started searching for the treasure. Not in a really hard way. He just thought it was interesting, like maybe if I look enough, I'll find one of these nooks and crannies up there. So, but again, once you go past that point right there, you're into Toltec Gorge, and there are no shoals. There's no bank. It's just rocks. And if you want to see more of that, look up Doug Scott Photography, and he has a page, a web page, and a YouTube channel dedicated to waterfalls. And he spent a lot of time photographing and video making in this area down in the Toltec. So Chris was actually getting progressively higher. Oh, rats! Didn't want to do that. Chris was actually getting progressively higher up the side of the mountain, and I started worrying like, ugh, I'm going to lose a Huffington Post reporter here. But he was
as if you were in charge of him or something.
True. I wasn't. Purple flowers.
But we did need to get out of there when the storm was starting.
You can see it up here. The storms are starting to move in, and that road gets
it takes about 45 minutes to walk back to the car, so we got to get moving.
And the road from Osher Station down into the canyon is ugly. It I don't know necessarily that you couldn't do it in a 2-wheel drive vehicle, but it's narrow, and I don't want to say it's dangerous, but it's a 4-wheel drive.
You mean to drive across where the cow trails are?
No. Where we come down from Osher Station, down that little switchback. Yeah. So one last look before we go.
We asked people before we ever drove it, and they all said, well, you don't have to have a 4-wheel drive, but it's a lot easier if you do.
It definitely is. And I think I'd say you don't need a 4-wheel drive, but it's a lot easier. So this was the shot that I wanted, where I'd say to Shelley, all right, just look like you're pointing something out to Chris, and she did. Unfortunately, Kevin photobombed my shot by pointing in the opposite direction. So.
Kevin's lost a lot of weight too.
So this is funny. This is that area, I know, Heaven Will.
Yeah, he's lost like 50 pounds since then.
So this is that area that I called Rock Slide, and there's a bunch of scree on the other side because they cut the train tracks right into the side of that hill. So there's a lot of that. This one, I've asked geologists about this, and nobody has a reasonable explanation for what this river of rock is. And you can actually see it on Google Earth if you search the area. You can see it on Google Earth, but it looks like a river of rocks. I don't know how else to describe it. So what was interesting is I didn't realize that Chris was a fisherman, and so he kept running down to the river, and he'd run back up, and he would say to me, "Did you bring your fishing rod? Or why didn't you bring your fishing rod? Or we're coming back here to go fishing." But even the water, you can see in comparison to where it was in June, the water was already going down. And this is unusual for this because usually they're letting water out from the reservoirs above the Rio de los Piños, and so it keeps the water level high. By now, it was not only high, but fish thrive in waters that are around 55 degrees, 5 degrees either side of 55 degrees. And by this time, the water was too warm to support trout. So they moved on to wherever they go. So one last look before that's getting back to the truck, our launch point, and launch point. Okay. So then let me see. So this was our last trip, and so this is the eastern approach, and we really wanted to fish. So we hadn't all these times that we had gone. We wanted to do some fishing, and we never got the chance. We were always busy treasure hunting. Kevin wanted to learn to fly fish, and honestly, he looked like he already knew how to fly fish. But by this time,
he watched a lot of YouTube videos on fly fishing. Yeah.
So this is, if you remember correctly, let me see if I can go back here. I don't remember which shot that was. So Nope, it's not that one. Give me 1 second. I'll never find it now. Anyway, by this time, the water was just way, way down. And it was 60 degrees and above. So we didn't have any luck fishing for those two reasons on either the New Mexico side. There's the boat that Shelley took the shot with both Kevin and I trying our luck. We ended up staying in that little place where the phone kiosk was. And they had cabins there. So we got a cabin there in Mogote. And it was a little 2-bedroom cabin, very comfortable, had a full kitchen, full bath. So it was very comfortable. And here's the train. You know, we always make that trip. I think we went up there 3 or 4 times on this trip into Osher, found our spot, headed down. And this is the place where the Colorado and New Mexico border meet. And it's right at the end of this little island.
So that's where Warm Waters halt,
right.
In case anybody's wondering.
Right. That's where our Warm Waters halt at the border of Colorado, at the Colorado border. And I can give you the thing about it is I can give you the precise GPS coordinates for that. So we took the opportunity to hide one of our bronze coins that we had purchased, and we put it into this baby mammoth skull. And Shelley found a blue spruce that's literally on the Colorado-New Mexico border. The line cuts right through that blue spruce. And so we put the baby mammoth skull in there. And I don't know how, I guess all we did was post pictures about it. So this is the island going down. And as you can see, Kevin's walking in an area where there would normally be water on that little island that goes down. But we're at the border. Another shot of the river of rocks and just no sense. Sandwiches down at the special place. And then we went a little bit further down. But again, you can see how low the water is. And just how dry it was at this time of the season. That's our no paddle up your creek there that dumps into the river. This if the water hadn't been so warm, that spot right there, as you can see, the green river grasses right there, had the river been as high as it normally is, those grasses would have been covered because you can see the riverbank comes all the way up to there and you can see the effects on them, but the water just wasn't high enough. So we had to say goodbye to this place. It was on the drive back. Kevin went and looked on the other side for a little bit, but on the drive back, I had to kind of admit that I really didn't know where that treasure was. You know, I just didn't know where the treasure was. So Shelley was looking for quartz and found some. And this is our walk back to the car.
That was a Pecos diamond, I think.
Is that what it was?
That's what they call it. A little piece of quartz about the size of a diamond.
This area was on the other side of the river below the home of Brown, and I really wanted to check it out, but I promised myself I'd go back there to check it out. So this was our brown trout. You can't see him because I had to change the lighting. But I don't know if you can see this guy right here. That's about a 24-inch brown right there. Happily.
He was kind of stuck in there, too.
Yeah.
Gonna have to wait till the water came along.
So definitely a nice little place. And that's the island. That's a drone shot of the island that we're talking about that separates the river. And then we went back and made dinner at our little... rains came every afternoon. Rains come in the area and you want to get out of there before... Because you don't know. Sometimes it's just a soft, sprinkle. And other times it's a downpour and then the flooding starts, the flooding.
Man, in the park, it's the state line which runs across the river. It's where the Warm Waters halt. Right.
This was one of the hosts. We went up the Rio Conejos because we wanted to try some fishing up there. But you can always tell when the fishing is bad because no matter where we went, nobody else was fishing. There weren't any fishermen. And you can see Shelley sitting on a bank right here that would normally be covered. The host that said these rocks would normally be covered by the river. That's how low it was. And again, the temperature was way off. No trout in there. I got my one.
It was cloudy. It was a cloudy day.
Yeah, cloudy. The river was warm and the river was low. It just wasn't a good day for fishing. So this is Kevin made friends with his squirrel, and the squirrel kept waiting for Kevin to feed him and when he didn't, he got mad. What's the name of this lake? It's got a weird name.
Oh, I don't remember.
Did I actually post it?
Maybe High Plains Drifter knows.
Yeah.
He seems to be real familiar with that area.
So this was a gentleman. There was a little store that we stopped at where the forest road and the main road back to Mogote meet. And this gentleman had taught himself, he was retired and moved up there in his retirement, and he taught himself to flint knap. So he had a bucket full of flint, and he gave me some. And then later on, I came back and I bought this knife from him, this handmade knife from deer antler and flint. I still have it. Then we stopped and they had homemade pineapple pies made by the LDS community, the Latter-day Saint community, and boy, were they good. So we went back to Alamosa and we went back to True Grits Steakhouse, but it was closed.
So we ate flowers.
So these are just some flower shots because I like getting flower shots. We tracked the train, et cetera, et cetera. And this was our little setup. One of the times that we went, we did the river crossing, and you can see how steep that is. It's steep and rocky, and it's like that on both sides. And you come across here, and then there's this kind of grassy knoll area that's really beautiful. And again, it's unimproved. I mean, there's no porta potties, no fire pits, no nothing. And so we just set up our table there, little spot there. Had our lunch, had a good time, did a little bit of fishing. So it's a beautiful area. It's very secluded. That was the mayfly. I tried to match that hatch. And here's Kevin trying to explain to me how to fly a drone, and I'm just laughing at him. So we did some drone, but we couldn't get the drone to recognize where it was. You have to kind of recalibrate the drone when you're in location, and it's called the DJI dance, and you have to spin around once to the right and spin around 360
degrees. At least that's what you said.
To the left, and we just could not get that drone to calibrate it. We didn't get it up in the air that time. So that's just the area. It's a beautiful area, and it has the potential to be great fishing. It just wasn't that time. We're driving back to up State Road 103, and turkey season wasn't open yet, but this was a
flock of turkeys.
No, there's another name for them.
Gaggle of turkeys.
Gaggle. I don't know what they were. I counted 24 turkeys crossing the road. Very happily.
No, we looked it up at the time, but I've already forgotten it again.
This is the Gypsy wagon that was in one of the parks near where we were in Mogote. We thought we'd take a picture of the Gypsy wagon. And this is us drinking wine and roasting marshmallows. I will tell you that making s'mores and drinking wine doesn't always work, but in this case, it really did work. So this was after we had had dinner. Last picture of the trip.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a good time. We felt like it was a credible enough area. We felt like if we were going to go back there, it was going to go to be fishing. And I certainly would. Would you agree with me that it would be kind of a neat vacation if you just went up into the mountains and trout fished and picnicked and stuff like that?
Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah. It would make you could spend a week up in the area. There's enough to do and see, especially if you're a trout fisherman. To go, you could go up there and have a really good time. So Wayne Ross has been bugging me to call him on the Rio de los Piños, and he just sent me a message. So Wayne, I think, well, he can tell us.
A rafter of turkeys.
So
a gang of turkeys or a posse of turkeys.
Oh, is that?
Says to north.
So let's call Wayne and see what he has to say about this area. We got a few more minutes before the show ends.
The weather was really good. It was just, there's a breeze, a cool breeze, which is why I usually had a jacket on. And usually the rain would hit about 4 o'clock, so you had to be out of there by 4.
Hey, how are you, Toby?
Great. Is this Wayne?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
hey,
Wayne.
So we are doing our Rio de los Piños show, and you asked me to call. We got about 10 minutes or so, so I'll just open it up.
Yeah, so let me, so here's a thing that I've never shared with anyone else, but I haven't seen it anywhere, and I've been really puzzled by it. So when I talk about it, everybody may come out and say, oh, yeah, we all knew about that, but we weren't telling anybody.
Yeah.
So email mentioned it in one of those emails. Basically, when you were doing your Los Piños search, did you factor in NM-354 at all?
Are you talking? Is that a state road?
No.
What is it? I don't know what it is.
The number. So go to Bing or Google and do a NM-354 arch search.
Arch.
Just NM-354 arch.
ARCH.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna put this back on the screen so you guys can see what I'm doing here.
Yeah, see if you can just bring this up.
Okay, so NM-354 ARCH.
While you're looking for that, one of the things that is important is that you and I have talked about this before. That when you get to places like the Rio de los Piños, you just realize that there are just thousands of hiding places and places in that area where you could put that. So go to that. This is an arch in the Toltec Gorge that I think could be the place.
Wow, you know what? It even has kind of an arrowhead shape to it.
So the name of it is Arrowhead Arch.
Oh, interesting.
And Fenn recently said that his favorite memory or recollection was finding his first arrowhead. So I think the fact that this is called Arrowhead Arch. And when I first saw this photo, I thought it looked like a blaze. It looked like a flame, kind of like a campfire. But then when I realized the name was Arrowhead Arch, I thought that was even better. And this is on, so go to Google Earth and look at the Toltec Gorge. And I'll tell you exactly where it is.
Okay.
And also, wait a minute, while you're on this picture, notice that this is a buttress arch that is formed by a scant.
By a what?
Slab of rock.
Oh, yeah.
By a scant.
So is that what geologists, is that what
is a slab of rock?
Yeah.
You can see that slab of rock leaning against that is what's causing that arch.
So, you know what
so
would
when you go to the Toltec Gorge.
Hang on a second. So I have an interesting, can you tell me, so what, as I look at this, there's the slab of rock. What did you call it?
A scant, like in Terry Scant.
Oh, okay. So there's a scant forming the arrowhead, and then there's kind of a knife blade of a rock face. What direction does that knife blade of a rock face?
So I don't know but what happened, Toby, was that, and I just this afternoon posted on Henna Bridges a new post about this, and so all the details are in that post if people want to go and look at Henna Bridges. But basically, I was doing all this searching, and I kind of like you and I have talked about before, I've hit this kind of point where I thought, okay, this is all I can do on Google Earth. I believe, and Shelley, I think, had this same idea that the train stop is actually what I consider where warm water's hauled.
Yeah.
And that canyon down right by the water tower is not that far to the water crossing that you were just talking about. It's actually, I think when I draw the line and measure it on Google Earth, I think it's 1.8 miles.
Yeah.
But so that's not too far, but because of the train, I think it's too far to walk. And also, there's a road right there that you can just drive down to that water crossing. So,
the reason I'm asking is if this rock were to be, if that knife blade shape were to be facing slightly north or slightly south, then
I think it's south.
Then the rising or setting, in this case, if it's facing south, that's facing south. So
I think the arch is facing north and south. The image you're looking at
is north south. So the rising sun. Right. Here's your blaze maybe. So what would happen if the rising sun would cast its rays through that and to the far side of the what you call it?
So here's the deal. So when I found this, it was because I had kind of, like we were talking about, felt like I'd gone as far on Google Earth as I could go in finding those first set of clues. But I felt like you have to be BOTG to really find the blaze, make sure you're looking at a place that's a valid home of all those kind of things. Well, so then this was winter. This was this last winter. and I was looking around. I was doing all kinds of reading. I read the story. I watched the video of the train going the whole route. I looked up Toltec Gorge and all these other places. And when I did that and went to images after I entered Toltec Gorge in a Google search, this image came up.
Yeah.
And so when I clicked on it, it said it's New Mexico 354 Arch in the Toltec Gorge, which I thought was fantastic, because sometimes when you look at images, even if you're searching for Toltec Gorge, it might be some arch in somewhere else,
Right.
Chama or somewhere.
So why is it called New
So
Mexico?
anyway, so I
Why is it called New Mexico 354?
so if you so that is a number of arch, and there is a page that you can go to that is all of the New Mexico arches. So when you did that Google search a minute ago, probably one of the things that it'll bring up is on Google Maps, you can go to a page that shows all of the arches in New Mexico. Just has kind of a map of New Mexico, shows where they all are. And then I had already seen from the picture, because I saw the picture first, that
Right.
this was in 354.
Well,
So you can enter that. It'll go right to that arch.
yeah.
And the photo was done by Larry Beck. And the only comment on that page is from Doug Scott.
Oh, interesting.
And Doug Scott says, to get to this arch, you climb up out of the gorge and you come up on the east side of the tunnel, okay, that goes where the train goes through the tunnel. And you go through the tunnel, and once you come out the west side of the tunnel, which is more on the side that you would be on anyway,
Right.
you take that first ledge around the edge of the tunnel, and you can walk around that ledge and see the arch. You can't see this arch from the train or from any, in other words, this arch is only visible in certain places.
Hmm.
And
Okay,
so
let's go.
if you
So
go
we
to
just
Google
have a
Earth-
few minutes. I'm in Google Earth, and I'm going to show the
Okay.
people where we were talking about first. So that's what we call the near side right here.
Yeah, that's the crossing. Yep,
Right.
right.
And there's the
Now go
crossing
down
on the
train
river,
to the tunnel.
and we go
Right.
on that road,
Just follow
make
the
this
train track to
turn,
the
and then right here is that little 2-lane track. That's where we park our truck, right there. Okay.
right.
And then
That's
we
where
walk down
I
this
agree.
ridge towards, there's the train track, and you can see all the scree that was left from the blasting out of
Right.
the rock to run the train track. So I'm
That
going
right there where you're at now is where I think you can go the closest to the gorge, but you still have to hike down that hill like you're talking about.
well, we get on this side. So let me show you. So there's the Colorado-New Mexico border right there. Okay.
right.
And it's right on that. There's the little island.
No, follow the train more around. It's more in the middle of the gorge,
Okay.
the
So,
arches.
so that area
It's
that
in a dangerous spot, and
Hang
that's
on.
one of the things I don't like about it.
Okay, so hang on just a sec. See this area right here?
Okay.
That's the area that we end up searching in. As we cross the river, we searched in this rocky area
And
here.
that island,
But that's
yes, I've
where,
seen that.
yeah, there's the island right there. It's much greener
That's
than
that
it looks
river
in
of
here.
rock right there that you
Yeah.
can see.
That's right.
Right.
There's the river
And
of
then
rock.
I think, so one of the things I also did was I looked at all the forums for other people's solves, and I saw that other people had Toltec Gorge solves, and some of them were even using the train stop like Shelley and I.
Yeah. Yeah.
One guy was on Dale Neitzel's site. Tom Terrific has done a lot of searching in the gorge,
Yeah.
and he thinks that you have to line up the white spot you see on the train track right there with the top of that first island that you kind of go around.
Yeah.
That first ridge of rock that you go around right where you're at. He thinks if you go to the right, go lower on the screen a little bit. Move your screen up a little bit.
You're
To the right.
You're behind
There you
me.
No, the other that way. Yeah, go that way.
This
Okay,
way?
see that white blaze on the track? Tom Terrific thinks you line up that blaze with the top of one of these places over here by the river, and that's where he thinks maybe is
Well, it's
how you find some of this. But but at any rate,
well,
so to find the arch, let me show you that.
he would send us, he sent
ahead.
us emails and images of the area that he was searching in. And a lot of he was following the state line, because every mile or so along the state line here, there's a marker, one of those USGS markers. And he was tracking them.
And that's one of the things that I thought could be the blaze as well, was the state line marker.
Yeah.
Or one half of the gorge is national forest, the other half is Cruces Wilderness area.
Right.
And I thought maybe there was a marker for that could be the blaze. Those are things that I had been thinking might be potential blazes in this area.
Yeah.
And I know Forrest told us not to start with the blaze, but at this point it was winter and I wasn't going to go. And so I was just kind of exploring Google Earth.
He sent me,
go down the track
he sent me a
to
photograph of, I don't know whether you can see it, but I'm running my arrow. He sent me a photograph of one of those markers that's right along that area right here above the tracks. So I'm going to follow the tracks down.
Right. See,
so there's his blaze right there.
I think that's really interesting too. So this is why I keep saying to you guys, you shouldn't give up on this. So let's go around the track to the arch.
So the problem is you're going to be a little bit...
Even that part right there also looks a lot white, like it could be a potential blaze.
Yeah.
But keep going. The tunnel is a little bit farther down.
All right. Well, tell me when, because you're going to see it 30 seconds after I move it.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm behind you. Okay. I'm watching you live. But yeah, I see what you're saying. So go around the track some more.
Okay.
We can talk about this tonight if you want to put it off. I just thought with the Los Piños thing you were talking about.
Get me to that arch.
So keep going down the track till you get to the tunnel.
Okay, I'm at the tunnel. It's right there.
Move it farther up, still farther, where you can see the whole curve and all that. Your picture of you and Shelley is covering it. There you go. Now look at that rock outcropping where it covers, where it's the tunnel. On the front edge of that rock outcropping, move your cursor down a little. That's where the arch is.
Right in here?
So it's that, no, down lower towards the gorge.
Again, you're going to have to catch up. Hang on.
Farther, even closer to the gorge than that. It's on the front. It's right at that flat brown spot you can see right down here. The arch website you were at gives the actual GPS coordinates. And your GPS coordinates.
So here's what's interesting. The train stops right after that tunnel to let off hunters and fishermen.
To look at the Garfield. Right. To look at the Garfield
and hunters and fishermen then hike down this trail right here, and they camp, and then they catch whenever they decide to go back. They camp. Now, this is not the best shot of the Rio de los Piños. We're going to have to take a drone up there and see if we can get some drone shots of it a little bit more.
Yeah,
detail.
That's what when you and I were talking, and I said I wanted to get with you. It was because I want to fly the drone up there. That's a hard spot. Doug Scott says, "Oh, it's only a 4-mile walk back to the station from there. It's really easy." I thought, maybe for some people at that elevation, it would be for me.
You're at about 9,500 feet there.
I'm almost 70.
You're at about 9,500 feet there.
So the bottom line is, though, that arch is on the front of the top. The top of the tunnel kind of comes over, and then there's kind of a rock face there, and that arch is pretty much just a little to the left of where your cursor is sitting right now. So I believe that using line of sight, that when you find the blaze, when you first might be able to see that arch, is not necessarily on that rock outcropping, because the problem I had with that rock outcropping was that I thought it was too dangerous a place for Fenn to keep telling everybody, it's in a safe location, no problem going there. But I do think that it's a potential solution theory if you use the arch like you were describing. Maybe it lights up something at certain times of the day, or maybe you use line of sight to get the arch in view, kind of like what Tom Terrific was saying.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. One other thing real quick.
Okay.
The two openings of the tunnel are the double omegas.
Oh.
And they frame that arch.
So here's the arch in this area. It is facing north-south. If the sun were setting in the west, it could cast rays right through that arch, back up right here. This is where we stop our search, because this is serious Toltec Gorge here. That's no place for the meek.
No, I know. So, see, I agree with that. So look quickly down from there is straight down into the gorge.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless the chest is sitting right by the arch, because you can't, even when they stop to look at the Garfield Monument on the train, when you watch the actual train ride, you can see that they stop and they look and they say, this is the best place to see straight down into the gorge, 600 feet. Well, that's a possibility, and I think that's not as precise as I believe Fenn needs to be with those suggestions. In other words, you'd still have to explore a lot of the gorge looking for that.
All right, Wayne.
But I do think it's possible that arch is a nice place for him to rest his bones.
I agree with you. So let's take this conversation offline later, another time, because I think it has some interesting potential. Sure. And I wouldn't mind going back up there to figure out how to get the drone shot that you're describing, because it fits that your concept.
Yeah, I'm open to come in a week or two, so if you want, maybe we can do that.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. All right, sir, thanks for calling in today. We appreciate it.
All right, see you later.
You have a good day. Okay, let's go back to our full screen. Damned interesting that.
High Plains Drifter says he has hiked down to it, and it is a very difficult hike, and doesn't believe that Fenn could have made it when he was that age.
Agreed. But let's say Fenn could have been a place one summer afternoon where he was standing there, and all of a sudden the light coming from the afternoon setting sun cast its rays through that arrowhead and made a sunlit shape of an arrowhead on an object that was near where he was standing, or just maybe seeing, maybe he didn't even know it was there, except because that could get up the canyon to where he's at, as opposed to getting Toltec Gorge. Now, our friend Wayne is not only a pilot, he's a geologist, so he probably has a better sense of what it was doing at that time. But I have an application called PhotoPills that calculates where the sun is at any moment in time, and you can put it on a map, and it'll tell you what the rays of the sun are doing at that point in time. So I agree with, who was that?
Wayne Ross.
Wayne Ross. No. I agree with the gentleman that said High Plains Drifter. I agree. Oh, that's Jack Selvage, isn't it? Yeah. I agree with Jack. I don't think it's there. But maybe the light casting its wondrous photons through that object onto a rock face near where Fenn was standing was enough to call it a special place. Because that would make it pretty damn special, if you ask me. Okay. That's enough for today. Hope you enjoyed our trip to the Rio de los Piños. On Friday, we're going to talk about confirmation bias. I'm going to give you some examples, and I'm going to tell you why I'm the lead searcher.
Thought you weren't searching anymore.
I'm not searching anymore, but I am the lead searcher.
Oh, okay.
That's my point. All right.
All right.
We will see you tonight at 7 o'clock. Thanks for joining us today. We had a great time. Thanks to Wayne. But Wayne has been bugging me all week with emails saying, you got to get me in this show. And now I know why he was so adamant about that. If anybody would like a tour of the Rio de los Piños, we're offering tours of the area for just $9.95. I'm sorry, I'm just making that up. But we know the area pretty well. It's a lot of fun. It's a beautiful area. The Google Earth just doesn't do it justice. And... am I missing anything? What am I missing?
Join us on the softer side at 2:30.
Oh, that's right.
We'll be talking about Don't Lose Momentum.
Don't lose momentum on the softer side at 2:30 this afternoon. Join us then. We're going to have a nice conversation. All right. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you. And
for a Gypsy's Kiss, I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Younis. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you tonight at 7 p.m.